Hello and welcome to Mike Martin Asks Again. This week we have another amazing entrepreneur on for you guys. Awesome guest. I've been excited about getting this guy on because it's something very, very different than we normally. Most of my guests come through my team. We purposely reach out and we try to find these guys. And when this person was found, I was kind of like, holy shit, I'm so excited about talking to him. So he's the CEO of a company called Filter Off. Now, I'm not going to go into too much, but it's kind of a video speed dating app. So I'm dead excited to talk about this because I've been in a relationship for 12 years, fucking probably longer. And when we dated, it was a case of, okay, if you can get a drunk, you might get lucky. Whereas nowadays people do it online and it's a lot more civil. So this is cool. He's also a creator of something called PR FastPass. We've got a big SEO audience, which gets you business founding, all the top sites and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because we're going to talk about that later on. My amazing guest today is Zach Schleien. Over to you, my friend. Tell us who you are.
Hey, Mike. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on. Are you in a gym or something there? Or is that just an office with loads of glass walls?
Yeah, I'm at a WeWork in New York City at the moment.
Oh, a WeWork. I've seen the film on that. Is it the same thing as the film? You know, it's called WeWork, isn't it, in the film? Where that guy was just mental and he's just like, let's fuck the walls, not put the thingies up and everyone just working one big... Awesome.
You nailed it. Yeah.
I've never seen one in real life.
Yeah, this is where my office is. It's a great co-working space. The founder is definitely has some red flags, that's for sure.
Mate, there's nothing wrong with red flags. It's any publicity is good publicity, as they say. So, you know what? If it gets people talking, which I know about it, I've never seen one of those, but I know exactly about. I mean, they made a film about it, didn't they? I'm assuming you get a lot of contacts in there as well, then, do you? Because there's a lot of different businesses and a lot of young businesses. Because obviously, when New York City as well, if you can afford an office, you've already made it. But if you can't afford to buy a building, then you jump into something like WeWork. And is there loads of young up and coming businesses there that you can invest in and make money with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. In New York City, people are kind of like, their heads are down. I travel a lot, so when I work remotely, people are much more collaborative, I would say, with other like quote unquote digital nomads. New York City, not so much. But it is a great place to be. You're around other businesses. They have coffee on tap, so that's always a good thing. And it's pretty comfortable.
Yep. Like London then. Have you been to London?
I have
like
a couple
London.
Times.
Yeah, nobody looks at you. They just totally ignore you. You could walk down the street with your face covered in blood and nobody'd even pay any attention. They'd be like, he's just one of the weirdos. And they just get on. So tell us about you. Let's take you back. Before we start talking about the speed dating, which is the one I'm quite excited about because that's something that it's like, I don't know if you've managed to hold down a relationship. I don't think if I ran a speed dating app, I could hold down a relationship because my missus would be like always accusing me of stuff, I would imagine. And then the PR FastPass. But where did you start from? Obviously, you left school, uni, or whatever it is you did. What put you on this path to entrepreneurship? Because I love the backstory of entrepreneurs and finding out where they actually came from, what you made of type of thing. If we could start there.
Yeah, I think so. I grew up in Westchester, New York. Went to college at Syracuse University. And one thing I've always valued is relationships and deep connection. And kind of fell into online dating. My older brother told me about it after my freshman year of college. And I joined OkCupid. And I was like, whoa, I can meet people outside my friend circle. This is really cool. And kind of got just really into it. And this was back in the day before online dating was acceptable. There's definitely a stigma still. And I remember I was like, damn, I'm wasting so much time on these dating sites, on OkCupid specifically. How can I put this into something and put some do some good in the world with online dating? So what better way than just write a blog and review the different dating apps that are out there? So that's what I did. I took this passion of mine and put my energy into creating this dating blog called Top Romp. And I ended up just reviewing different dating apps and hacks for millennials. Grew that quite a bit and ended up selling that. And then I've just tried a number of different startups. And Filter Off was really the first, I would say the most successful one, where I was able to leave my 9 to 5. And just like really pursue what I'm really passionate about, which is like facilitating human connection in like a really authentic way.
I like that. I like the way you say it. So what were your failed businesses? What did you do first? What was?
Yeah. So I had a business called Begin You. It connected college students to student startups. And that was kind of my first taste of like entrepreneurship with a team. And we had a partner breakup. I thought it was really cool. Again, connecting students, helping them kind of like not have to just rely on school to learn, but like bring them into really cool projects. But yeah, it didn't work out. After that, I was doing the dating blog. After that, this did pretty well. I ran a mental health online community called 18%. We had about 25,000 people on Slack. We're the largest mental health Slack community. And it connected people who had like any mental health issues. So we had like different channels like anxiety, bipolar, depression. It was really cool. Just like the ability to help so many people. We partnered with the crisis text line. It just gave us like an inflow of new users every day that weren't necessarily in crisis, but were just looking for friends. That was a really cool community. And that was really my first taste in community. So I've had a lot of experience like building startups and then also like building communities and this passion around online dating.
So with regards to that mental health one, because that does sound really interesting. I'm assuming, was it the Facebook groups that killed that or was it just something that was difficult to monetize?
Yeah, I think what it came down to, it became philanthropic, which is great. But like, I just didn't have the time. Like Filter Off started working and I was like, this is the thing that I want to take off. I also had a partner breakup, quote unquote, with my old best friend. So that was pretty stressful. And when you and your co-founder are not on the same page, like the likelihood of success is just low. It's like a marriage. It's too stressful. So that was another reason why it didn't work out. But it was really special while it lasted. But just wanted to focus on the thing that was working.
And that was the dating app.
And that was the dating.
So how does this work then? Because obviously this was the thing that caught my eye as soon as I seen that you was coming on the podcast. I was like, holy shit, man! This guy's done something like total, and I can see where you've progressed from now. Obviously, getting those human connections, helping people. You've not gone down the route where I see a lot of entrepreneurs who chase the money. You've kind of gone down something and I'm assuming it's probably in the long run made a lot more money than most of the businesses where people are chasing the money because it's something that you're passionate about. Who doesn't like dating? it's like, kind of, but I know what you mean. When I was, because I'm in my 40s now, and when I was younger, dating apps were looked at like, people would laugh at you, people would take the piss, and nowadays, nobody seems to date in their own, like you said, their own friend circle. You could have a friend circle of 15 guys and girls and none of them will date one another. Because what will happen is they're all like, well, they all go out on dating apps and they meet people that are more connected and they keep the friend circle. Whereas when I was younger, everybody in this friend circle had dated everybody else growing up throughout the whole thing. Whereas nowadays it's like, well, we just all go on dating apps and nobody cares. So it has become, not just accepted. It's become commonplace, hasn't it? It's like even people in the 60s and stuff like that, I know who were on dating apps, and it's like marriages have broke up, and they're like, get on a dating app, and they do, and they enjoy it. They really enjoy it. So how does yours work?
Yeah, so we launched right before the pandemic. How we started was like virtual speed dating events for different communities, and then we've shifted away from that where now it's every day based off your preferences, you're given other singles. And if you both like one another, we set you up on a timed video date. And you only have a few days to actually set up that date. And if you both like one another, you could then message or jump on a longer video chat. And then every evening, our other feature is you could do a virtual speed dating event in your area. So it's really what makes it special is this time video date, face-to-face connection. Our goal is that you could get on a video chat like that evening from the comfort of your own home.
And so these speed dates, the way they work is it so I'm assuming you used to use like breakout rooms. Was that your initial model? Was like a breakout room and loads of people?
Yeah, I mean, when we first launched, everything took place in the Filter Off app, and it was like very community driven. I think one thing we noticed is once the whole community dates each other, it kind of dries up. and yeah, we had to just pivot since the pandemic. I think during the pandemic, people were just so disconnected, really lonely. They were just willing to talk to kind of anyone. I think what we've seen in the data is people have gotten a lot pickier again and curate. And that's what we're building features now to even provide more curation of what you're looking for or what you're not looking for. But yeah, we set you up on like these.
So it's a video date. Do they see each other before they go on the video date, or do they have to turn up to see each other? Is it like a surprise?
So now, yes, you could see one another. Like your pictures, you could add some like audio answering questions or video answering questions. So yes, when we first launched, it was all blind. And we were like, we're going to make this blind. Love is blind. And we quickly realized like people want to see each other, especially now post-pandemic. Maybe during the pandemic, they're again a little bit more open or much more open. Now they want to see what the person looks like. Attraction still is the number one thing for singles. Like they need to be attracted to want to, or at least like he's or she is good looking enough to go on a video date.
Yeah, because if you get on and I'm not saying ugly or nice, because everyone's got a certain type. And if you get on and it's like, all right, a lot of people might think she's nice, but I think she's fucking hideous and I don't know what it is about her. But there's certain actors and actresses who, when they come on a film, I say to my missus, I'm not watching it because they're in it because I can't look at the face. And I don't know why I can't look at the face. They're not particularly ugly, but to me, they're the ugliest person in the world. And it's I guess it's like that. I guess it is. It's like the law of attraction doesn't always make sense. When you see these like little short guys with these big, tall, beautiful blonde models and you think he's rich. But in a lot of cases on this, I guess that doesn't work. So have you got any success stories? Have you got any stories like where like they've met and they've fallen in love, got married and they've... Give us a couple of examples. You don't have to name any names, but...
No, for sure. I mean, we actually got covered in the New York Times for one of our marriages during the pandemic. In the last like month, I actually got like 3 emails from people who were like, hey, I got married on your app. One actually was a woman in the United States, and the guy was from Africa. And they met during the pandemic, and they chatted every day over video. And then she finally met him, flew out there when the borders opened, and ended up getting married. So now he's living in the US. So we've had a number of marriages, and I'm sure there's babies along the way too.
So wow, so it really has. It's changed lives, hasn't it? So it is something where you can turn around and say we've actually improved people's lives to a more important extent than financially. Because most of what I do is based about businesses, it's based about making money, it's based about finance, it's based about either somebody being able to make dough or to rank a website that builds a business. So there's things like, okay, I've changed their life in a financial way, but more importantly, I mean, if you can make somebody healthy or happy, I guess that's a million times more important to be able to turn around and say, I've actually made it's fucking awesome. I love it. And how do people get involved in that? If they wanted to get on your dating app, what's the, because my girls will put links down the bottom anyway for this, but if you just tell us about it, because this it does interest me. I want to talk about this for ages, but I'm probably not going to keep you on forever on about this because I know the PR ones, a lot of my guys will be looking to just talk us about the fucking PR. Go on.
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yeah, so Filter Off, it's available on Android or iOS. So you could just search Filter Off and you'll see it's free to use. We do have a subscription, but you can totally use it for free. The subscription just gives you like more people you can match with, boosts, super likes. I think when it comes down to is like, if you create an awesome product that people love, like you'll make a lot of money. So like we have these like subscriptions in the back end and a la carte purchases, but like our goal is like create awesome outcomes, get people on video dates, people will share it, people will buy, and it's a win-win everywhere.
Absolutely awesome. Love it. I really do. I think it's a brilliant product. When you first say to somebody, and you've probably had this experience anyway, when you first say to somebody, yeah, he runs a video dating app, a lot of people are like, oh, he's a sleazebag. He's just after boning as many women as he can. But when speaking to you, that doesn't come across at all. It's completely different. You've actually created something that I feel you should be pretty proud of, especially if it's making people happy and it's connecting couples in a way that is changing their lives. So that's cool. And then the one that a lot of my listeners are going to be shouting at the thing saying, look, we're all married. We're all in our 50s. Tell us about the PR FastPass. How did that come about? How did you end up building off the back of this? It's completely different. I'm assuming it's got something to do with how you marketed the dating app. But you tell me.
Yeah, so PR FastPass, it's a course. I've been passionate about PR, self-taught, for years now. And I actually grew Filter Off during the pandemic through PR. And every day, people are like, how did you get the New York Times? How did you get BBC? How did you get... And it was just like, we've been in over 200 publications. And people just kept asking me, wanting to jump on calls. And I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to make a course, just teach people how to do it exactly, the methods that I use, the exact scripts that I use, the exact subject lines that I use. So now when people ask, I just send them the link to the course because I'm like, I'd rather teach you how and you're able to do it yourself for any sort of business or service that you're looking to promote. So yeah, that's kind of the inspiration around this course, PR FastPass.
I guess a lot more people will actually have success if you do it that way because I think it was Russell Brunson who said it when I first heard it. And what he said is he says he's got a room where he charges people 50 grand a year to be in. Right. So they pay 50 grand and they come to a room and it's like a mastermind. And in this mastermind, they've got almost 100% success from every single person that spent 50 grand a year to be in the room. And over the years, he's had friends, family members, people that he knows personally who are struggling in business and stuff like that, who's brought them along for free. Come and sit in on my masterminds for free. You'll learn all the stuff we learn and you'll become successful. And he's had a 0% success rate for people he's given it to for free. So if you give your advice away for free, people don't value it. So if they go off and they purchase that course, I'm assuming a lot more people will value it because they've had to put their hand in their pocket for it. And that way they would. So I in that situation, I think you'll actually get more success from people buying a course off you than you would if you just jumped on a meeting and talked them through how to do it. That being said, let's. So what type of things have you been? So you said the BBC, you said New York Times and stuff like that. Do they need to have existing relationships and stuff like that to get into these? Because
yeah, that's the like one misconceived notion is you don't have to have any existing relationships. I taught myself just through trial and error, lots of mess ups and lots of wins, where I've replicated this over and over and had people who literally had one guy recently and he just got into like Toronto Star. So, which is like a pretty big publication in Toronto for his business. And it's like, once you have the framework, or in this case, taking this course and just like how to reach the right journalists, how to come up with your press-worthy pitch, you could get press without knowing a single journalist and without paying for like a really overpriced agency, and just do it yourself. And that's really the beauty of PR. It's like anything. It's a skill. Once you learn it, you could just apply it again and again and again and just get like massive press.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say about the PR. FastPass is, do you not have to line their pockets? Because most people I know that are doing either what you're talking about, where they're doing it from a positive perspective, or where they're actually doing it from a negative perspective, where they're trying to get things in certain magazines so it goes viral, so it'll kill a company so that their company will organically rise. You've only got one or two other competitors in the market. It's like, let's kill them. But they all tend to use cash. It's a case of phone call, here's $5,000, here's $10,000, here's $25,000, or whatever, depending on how big of a bigger result they want. They tend to have to throw cash at it. And obviously, it's not something I've spent a lot of time trying to do, but is that necessary or is it not?
No, not at all. I could kind of walk you through it. So like, if you have, let's say you have an idea, you have a business, and if you're just trying to sell your business, they're going to be like, take out an ad. You need to have an angle that's valuable to the journalist. So, and in the course, I talk about how to come up with these angles, leveraging current events, things of that nature. But once you have that angle, then you find the journalists that are connected to your niche. So like, for example, if you're in like fintech, find journalists that are also in fintech. And you could use like a site like Upwork to find journalists, like hire someone for cheap, really cheap, and just get a list of journalists in the fintech space. Or you could even use like a database like Muckrack, and pull those journalists. And then you come up with like a press-worthy subject line. And all these things are taught in the course. And then you come up with a pitch. And then once you email, let's say 1,000 journalists, and you pull in their name and the publication in the email, if you land one, that one could theoretically be like a major, like a Forbes. And I did that recently, and I got someone Forbes just through emailing like 1,500 journalists, but all you need is one. And then using that one, then you could then leverage that piece to even get more press. And it's like, you could literally keep getting press every week, and just becomes a machine, just leverage off each other.
That does sound really awesome. I think I'd like to do a webinar on it. Do you know what? Do you do webinars?
Yeah, we love doing that. I think what it comes down to is just like anyone could do this without paying for like a really expensive agency. That's the beauty. It's like a skill like anything else.
Do you use autoresponders for your emails then, or do you actually send them individual emails?
So what I use a service called Mailshake. So what I'll do is I load up all the emails into Mailshake. And there's lots of services like a GMass, yet another mail merge. And I A/B test subject lines. And then I put in the email. I pull in their parameters, like their first name and the company. So it feels curated. And then I do a follow-up after about 5 days, and I get open rates over 30%. I sometimes get 50% open rate. And then you just do these follow-ups. Oftentimes the second email will do it, and they say, hey, I'm interested in jumping on a call with you. And I mean, just think about it. It's journalists' jobs are to get valuable pitches, but they don't want to be spammed, and they don't want to be sold to. But if you could provide value, whether it's you have that angle or you have your subject matter expert in something, they're looking for that. And you don't need to send like a press kit. All that's BS. You just send like a short, concise pitch that's valuable, and they'll want to chat with you.
Yeah, do you know what? I get quite a lot of people contact me to try and JV on projects and stuff like that. And like, for example, I've got one in my support desk right now where somebody's tried to contact me through support, but he sent me a fucking big page of writing, massive big page, and it's been sat there for 4 days. And I'm thinking, I need to read it, but then I'm thinking, I can't be arsed reading it. And eventually I will probably just delete it because he sent me, like what you just said, a big press pack, but it's not. It's only It's about the size of that, but it's all text, so it's the full. And I'm like, I'm not spending 15 minutes reading something. I just want to know what you want in bullet points, and so I totally get that. People are inherently lazy anyway, aren't they? So how do you split test the headlines? Because obviously that's the most important part. Is obviously the headline.
Yeah.
Do you use a special tool for that, or does the software do that?
Yeah. So in most of these tools, you could just and oftentimes you have to get on their premium package, but most of those tools are pretty inexpensive. GMass is very cheap. You could just do different A/B tests. And in the course, I talk about how to come up with subject lines. And I like to actually start with 15, just like a brain dump. And that was actually BuzzFeed. If you're familiar with BuzzFeed, when they came up with titles, they would just throw everything against the wall, came up with every crazy title they could think of. And you could even also use ChatGPT. Be like, hey, this is a subject line, come up with 10 more variations of this subject line. And you could just iterate from there. So there's lots of tools now to come up with awesome subject lines.
One of the best ones, the reason I asked you that question is one of the best ones I've seen is a tool called GetResponse. And it used to be very, very basic years ago. I think I've had my list with them for about the one list I've got with them about 7 years now. And what they enable you to do is upload up to 5, I think it is, 5 headlines, right? And then what you do is you click send, and what it will do is it will send out a very small percentage, so probably 5% of your list. So let's say you're sending it out to 5, 6, 7,000 people, right? It'll send it out to 5% of your list. It waits for a certain length of time, so like an hour or so, sees which one's getting the best open rate and click rate, and then it'll send the rest of the list to the winner. So it kind of automates the whole thing for it. In fact, the girl that sends my emails, I've never shown her that thing. So, but she also is going to edit this video on Monday. So, Lauren, speak to me about that. I'll use this as a note to think. Yeah. So let's go back before we start talking about obviously how people get in touch with you and things like that. Have you had any big failures in your career, so that you've got, because people love to hear about it, because everybody's got these great ideas and people follow through on a lot of stuff where like this is going to change the world, this is going to make me, and they never do. Have you got any of them? Have you got any examples of stuff like that?
I mean, listen, for me, I've learned, and probably most of your viewers listening, we typically learn from doing. It's not from school or the corporate job. It's doing your own startup or doing your own project, just getting your hands dirty. I mean, it took me about 10 years trying different projects or startups until I went full-time on Filter Off, where I was able to pay myself a salary and build a team and just do this independently. Lots of trial and error and lots of fuck ups along the way where startups didn't work out, and lots of failures. And I've had partner breakups and my heart fucking pulled out of me. But that's what makes you better. And even with Filter Off, I've would have done certain things differently, but it's all a learning experience. And hopefully your startup's not dead. And if it's not, just start doing what you need to do to make it better, to course correct. And that's what it's about. And surrounding yourself with awesome people and listening to podcasts like yours to learn and take in new skills. So that's kind of what my personality and kind of what I'm drawn to.
If you was to give people one piece of advice, if somebody's going after a startup now, and you was to try and give them one bit of advice on how to think their way through, not necessarily go after this, on how to think their way through a successful startup to being something that's actually going to do 5, 6, 7 figures a year, what would the main bit of advice you'd give them about their headspace?
Their headspace. I mean, for me, all the startups I've worked on were things that I was super passionate about, and pain points for myself. Whether it's been around human connection, whether it's been about just getting frustrated going on first dates and getting there and realizing they don't look like their photos, or We don't have chemistry, did not translate into text. So I built Filter Off because that was the app I always wanted. So I think startups are hard and it's a grind. And if you work on something that's solving your own itch, it just makes it a lot more fun. And the likelihood of burnout is going to be a lot less because you're trying to solve this also for yourself.
How did you finance it then? Did you have to take capital on, or did you do it out of your own pocket?
Yeah. So in the beginning, we bootstrapped. I was working at 9 to 5. I was working on Filter Off evenings and weekends. And then the pandemic hit and I got us a ton of press and we got tens of thousands of users through press. And then I was able to raise $2.4 million. So I would say that using like this press machine was quite responsible for landing 2.4 million. We raised our lead investor was Anheuser-Busch's venture arm, ZX Ventures. And we also had investors that were ex-Tinder, ex-Google, and ex-Airbnb employees.
Wow. So your own press release is what launched your app at the beginning. What about the development side of things? You had to bootstrap that out of your own pocket? Because I mean, I've got 3 or 4 apps on at the minute, and just getting an MVP at a very small, it's at least 30 to 50K. And there's nobody wants to invest anything in that. It's like, okay, the first step is this. And then it's after you've done that, then you're looking at it and saying, okay, is this still a good idea, or have we just wasted another 50 grand? And we've done that lots of times. And it's so that's why I wondered about the actual the finance side. But obviously you got finance. How did you go about getting somebody to invest that sort of money? Is that because of where you're based, or is that?
So in terms of answering your first question about the software development, my co-founder is a software engineer and product designer. Okay. So like he took that.
Perfect.
He was like, I'm going to build a product that works, that's stable, that gets people onto a video chat. And my goal was to get people using it. And once we were able to have that, what they say often, cold start problem, like dating apps are hard because your people are your product. If you don't have enough people and people necessarily nearby, no one's going to use your app. It's hard. It's like a chicken or the egg. And that's why when I got the New York Times, it got a few thousand users. When we got the BBC and got another few thousand users, like, damn, it's populating. And from there, once we started getting these positive outcomes, like in the beginning, it was just about growth. And about a year and a half ago, that's what VC really deeply cared about, was just growth. Nowadays, it's like revenue. They care more about real businesses and having business models. But yeah, I was able to show, hey, people want to use this. This is something that the traditional swipe apps aren't doing, where it's like it's centered around the video chat. And this is going to be the next paradigm of online dating. And I convinced investors to jump on board and able to raise. And then I ended up speaking to this huge investor who's going to potentially invest. And I reached out to AB InBev's venture team. And then I reached out to his family office. I was like, hey, we're going to get $1 million like in the next 3 days. Are you in or you out? And then got like, everyone's like, jumped on calls. And yeah, it's like a lot about, like, I don't believe you should manipulate in any way, but you have to understand the playing field. And if people want in, others want in. They don't want to miss out. And that's what we were able to create. And it was a hot app. And during this time, and we were able to successfully close that round.
Yeah, fear of missing out's massive. It really is. It's like, that was genius. That was really smart. I mean, I don't know if you did it this way. I'm assuming because you've just opened the app up. Then I mean, it's available worldwide now.
Correct.
Because yeah, I think I always teach my students inch wide, mile deep. And I expected when I asked you how you first marketed it, because I expected for you to say something along the lines of we released in New York only. We basically had a tagline that was all about, this is the dating app for New York professionals, blah, 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 blah. And then it went from New York to New York State, and from New York State, and started to grow cross country that way. But it looks like you just hit the press releases and that just fucking killed it for you.
Yeah. I mean, the very beginning, we did no paid. It was all organic. I was big on Clubhouse at the time as well. I used to run like the big shoot your shot rooms on Clubhouse as like dating rooms. So people heard about me through that. So it's really like everything. Just, yeah, press. So just third party sites throwing us on, ranking us for video speed dating around SEO. So it was just like a number of different things to drive traffic without spending money or limited money. And then when we did raise, we did focus on New York City. Since then, we've now transitioned to be a nationwide dating app. So we did take that wide approach because we're just like, we need users. And we took a more narrow approach, and then we broadened it back out.
Yeah, so because that's kind of, I have always looked at it. In fact, in one of my books, I explain it. We did what we did I used to live in Spain, and we got these little tablets that dye your pool a different color. So you throw them in your swimming pool, and they dye your. So when you're having a party and stuff like that, you'll chuck a pink one in, and your pool will go pink, or you chuck a green one in, it'll turn green, and so on and so forth. And we threw one in the ocean to see what had happened. And when you chucked it in the ocean, it literally, you're seeing this little bit of pink, and then it was gone. It's like, and that's kind of what happens to your marketing budget if you try and hit too far afield. But I think a lot of new businesses make the mistake of trying to be all things to all men rather than saying, well, I just want short, fat, bald men with one leg, because there's still thousands of the fuckers around, and they're dead easy to target type of thing. But I mean, obviously it's worked for you guys, which is absolutely brilliant. What would you say from a professional perspective? What's the biggest, like, not from a financial perspective? What's been the biggest achievement you've done where you've been like, okay, I feel really proud of that? And the reason I'm asking you this is because a lot of entrepreneurs go after, they try to, they chase the money, like we were saying earlier, and they're like, oh, if I'd have done this, I'd have made $1 million doing this, I'd have made $2 million doing that, I'd have made $5 million, and you still feel the same. Doesn't matter how many zeros are in your bank. You wake up feeling like shit some days. You other days you don't feel like going to the gym, or you don't even want to get out of bed. And it's kind of, what was the biggest, the achievement that made you feel the best from a professional perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. I did a TEDx a few years ago, and being on stage and talking to close to 1,000 people, that was, I realized kind of everything after that was a lot less fearful. Once you're on stage in front of that many people without a script, like no teleprompter, a 13-minute script, like you definitely change as a human. And that was quite an impactful experience in my life.
And is that the first time you've ever spoke on stage?
Not the first, but by far in terms of size, largest and most pressure. But I've spoken on stage with like slides, supporting slides, so it's very different when you have like a 13-minute script and you actually don't have, because with TEDx you're not looking at your slides, you just do like a picture.
So with TEDx different. You don't look at your slides at all. You don't have any notes. You don't look at your slides. You don't, because I do regular 2-hour presentations, but even a 30-minute one on stage. But I'll always have a clicker in my hand, and there's always a couple of notes that give me the idea of where I'm going. And what was the title of the TEDx talk?
It was about opportunities are everywhere. So it's about basically like meeting how people will come into your life, and you have a choice to kind of explore it or pass. And also like experiences will come into your life, and it's up to you whether you take it or not. And but I shared my story on the opportunities that I took, and then the impact I was able to make. And it was in relation to my mental health work that I did in building that community. And I ended up raising like over $40,000 for people with mental health issues. So it was my story, but it was just to kind of like lay it on the crowd to be like, what is your life? When do you have those opportunities that you pass on because you said you didn't have time or you weren't senior enough to do that? So that was kind of like the message I wanted to
get out. That's amazing. So when I asked you for your achievements to come on there for me to do the intro at the beginning, you didn't want to mention that you've actually spoke at fucking TEDx events, which is amazing. No way. So that's cool. I've actually just written it down there. It's on a note with something to do with my staff. I can't show all of it, but because it's got stuff to do with my staff next week on there. But I'm going to watch that later. That's brilliant. That's really impressive. Little bit jealous. I would love to speak at TED. I don't think they'd let me. But absolutely brilliant. So if people want to get involved, people want to speak to you, obviously I've just said to you, I'd like to do a webinar for the PR thing. I'd like to have a look at it, and get my team to go through it and see what's included. And I think from the results you've got, obviously from being able to push something as big as that, something on a national basis, not just because a lot of my guys do local. So if you imagine that they was trying to actually implement your strategies in a local market area, like when you're targeting things like local papers and local online press and things like that, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for them to reach out and do. And there's going to be a hell of a lot more people that can, because obviously the New York Times you mentioned earlier, I mean, every man and his dog's trying to get into the New York Times. So to get them to pay attention and actually give a shit about what you're saying is going to be very, very, very difficult. Whereas if I'm trying, I live in Weymouth, a place called Weymouth. If I'm trying to get in the Weymouth, probably the Weymouth, I don't even know what the newspaper around here is called. Let's call it the Weymouth Gazette. But if I'm trying to get into the Weymouth Gazette, the people there are a lot more desperate for stories. Because if I go to there and say, head teacher slapped my kid, I'd have somebody from the paper probably at my house taking photographs and ready to pounce on this thing and put it on the first page. So the strategy from what you're talking about for people trying to promote local businesses, not just from their own business perspective, because most of my audience, I've got agencies and I've got SEO clients and I've got clients that do this, and a lot of them don't know about this type of marketing. So I would be very, very, if anybody wants to get in touch with Zach direct and obviously look at the course, it's prfastpass.com.
That's correct.
That's great. Okay, thought that was it. I had a look at that before. I didn't dare look at the filter off because it's the dating app, and if my missus looks on my computer and I've been on the dating app, she'll break my legs. So I didn't. I heard about it and I was like, this sounds really interesting. Can't wait to talk about it. But I didn't do any personal research on there for that reason alone. But if people want to get in touch with you, obviously, if you want to get a date, get on Zach's dating app. Give us the URL for that, mate, and the girls will put it below.
Yeah, the website is getfilteroff.com, or you could search Filter Off in the Google Play Store or Apple App Store.
So just type Filter Off on your phone. Everyone's got one. And get some video dating going, guys. prfastpass.com. But if you're not quite sold on this at the minute, guys, what will happen is I'm going to arrange a time with Zach as soon as we finish on this podcast to do a webinar for it as well, but we'll put the links for both down the bottom. Mate, I just want to thank you very, very much for coming on. It's been awesome talking to you. I was dead excited because of the dating app coming on, so obviously, as you knew when we spoke just before we come on live, I really do appreciate you coming on and taking the time. And thank you very much, guys. I will see you all next week with another amazing guest. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.